1, 2, 3, 4.
Welcome back to the channel. So last episode I had some troubleshooting with our Highlander. The issue we were having is it was giving us the check engine light and the check all-wheel drive light, and one of the fixes that you can have for that is an issue with the gas cap. So I went through, pulled the gas cap off, I cleaned the filler neck, lubed up the O-ring and the gas cap. It seemed like it fixed it. Well, about 2 weeks later, Alicia came to me and she told me that the lights came back on. So I went ahead and I just bought a new gas cap, trying that next, and then I reset the computer, and that fixed it for probably another 2 weeks, and then it came back on. So our issue is not with the gas cap. One of the other symptoms that we're having is that the vehicle, when it got real cold out, below 40 or 30 degrees, it would not heat up. It would heat up sitting in the driveway, but as soon as you got driving and air was moving past the radiator, the temperature would just drop down, and it would go all the way down if you're driving at highway speeds or 45 miles per hour or higher. And so it turns out what the issue is the thermostat. It sounds like the thermostat is stuck open, and Alicia had taken the vehicle to AutoZone or a parts store and had them run codes on it, and the codes that it was coming up with were for the thermostat. So today we get to change the thermostat. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go under here, and there is a cover down here, and I'm going to pull this off so that I can gain access to either a petcock for the radiator to drain the radiator, or figure out if there's somewhere where I can pinch the radiator hose to keep it from draining all the coolant out. So I believe these are a 10 millimeter. I'm going to zip those off real quick, and then we're going to pull this cover off. We got our cover off here. The one issue I had, of course, after you get your million bolts out of there, and of course Toyota likes to use 2 different thread bolts, so when you put these back in, you got to be mindful not to try and put one of the coarse thread bolts like this one. Nope, didn't want to zoom. Focus. You want to make sure you don't put one of the coarse thread bolts in one of the fine thread holes. Man, I wish this thing would zoom. There we go. So don't put one of these bolts in the holes for one of these bolts. Oh, there we go. Because that's not going to work well. And then another thing, the little clips, Toyota likes to put these little clips that the head's supposed to pop out to remove the clip. Well, every one of them, when I tried to pop the head out of there, it broke the clip. So let's see if I can get to where you can see one. So there's what's left of the clip right there. So I'm going to have to get some needle nose and pull those out of there and replace them. But now we have access, and I can decide if I'm going to drain or clamp the radiator hose. There's the hose right there. Well, I've decided not to try and just clamp the hose off. I don't have one of the actual hose clamps that pinches them down, and I'm not gonna try and rig something up. So I just cleaned out a little bucket and I put that under there, and I'll show you real quick. There's Chance. Don't mind my mess. This place is an absolute disaster. I plan on getting it cleaned up pretty soon. But under here, if you look right up there, that is the radiator petcock right there. And so you just twist this nut on the end and coolant comes out the bottom here. Oh, those dogs. It might be a good idea to take the cap off of the radiator. Okay, I took the radiator cap off, and let's see if it flows a little better. Oh, really? There we go. Okay, so you just turn that nut. It's almost all the way out, but just turn it until it starts draining out of that tube on the bottom. And we're just gonna let it drain for a while and keep an eye on the bucket, make sure it doesn't overflow. So while we have that draining, I was reading through the technical instructions. So this is really all you can get, since I don't think there's even a Shilton's manual out for these things yet. So Alicia talked to some of her co-workers and was able to get a printout of the all data sheet and for the procedure of changing out the thermostat. And it says here that you have to remove the number 2 engine mounting stay. Number 2 engine mounting stay disconnected. Next it says remove engine moving control rod bracket. Got some funny names for this stuff, but I am assuming that is this guy right here, because that kind of looks like maybe an engine moving control rod, and I assume that's what this is. Let's do a quick search on the Toyota parts catalog. All right, so I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I have no idea what they're talking about. So all data calls it the engine moving control rod bracket. The closest thing I've found on Toyota parts online is a bracket engine mounting right for transverse engine. Now this don't look like nothing we got over here that's in the way. So I am going to try and get this guy out of the way. I'm hoping this is like a 2-piece deal, and these bolts that are going in the top, the 1, 2, 3 are all that I need to get out of the way. If I can take those out, flip this thing around and spin it out of the way, then I'll be happy. I may have to take this guy off on this side so I can get it all spun out of the way, but we're gonna give it a try. Looks like we have like a 14 and a couple 12s. Good thing about Toyotas is that it is so much easier finding the right socket. Typically, you got 14s, 12s, and 10s. That's the majority of all the bolt sizes you'll find on most of these Toyotas. Okay, I'm going to keep him on there and kind of loose, and I'm going to try and keep all the bolts together and in the places that they go. I gotta use a deep well 12 on these guys since they're nuts that go through. I might need to pop this guy off first. Maybe he'll be all right. Yeah, let's see if we can get under that thing to pop it off. I'm going to go ahead and just get this wiring loom popped off of the bracket while the bracket's still sturdy. All right, and there is one part of the bracket. I'm going to keep my bolt right there where it goes, and then once we get this bracket off, I'm going to put the nuts back on there so they stay where they go. Well, it looks like there's one more 12 over there too. Okay, now we just gotta wiggle this guy out of here. Now with him out of the way, we can put our 12 that we just pulled out back where he goes. We're just gonna put him in a few threads so that he didn't turn up missing. More than a few, I guess. Put our two nuts back on this guy. That way we keep everything in order. All right. Looks like more 14 millimeters. I believe I put my 14 back. All right, and we're going to utilize the old cheater. I don't know if we're going to get enough leverage on it. Probably not. Nope. Should have done that one first. So, for all you viewers, if you're going to take this guy off, remove this bolt right here first before you take out these three. Might be helpful. And now that we got our one bolt on the side out here, and of course you get that sucker loose to take it out, and it hits the brake lines, so you can't get it out. So now let's get our other bolt. Kind of wiggle him around a bit, see if we can get that darn thing out of there. I guess we're gonna have to remove this side as well. Oh, how that comes apart. Oh, almost got it. Well, I think I took that guy out for... Oh, nope, there it is. It's out! And make sure you put your bolt back in. Don't lose track of that guy. About 1,000,000 bolts here, all different sizes and lengths. Alright, it looks like our bucket's getting pretty full under there, and she is just kind of a dribble. So I'm going to go ahead and close that off, see if we can actually get the bucket out. There we go, there's that beautiful Toyota pink coolant fluid. Best stuff there is. One thing, guys, whatever you do when you're doing something like this and you're doing like me and you got your coolant in an open bucket like that, don't just leave it out if you got pets. See those doggos? Love those guys. They will try to drink this stuff and it will kill them. So always make sure you secure it. If you don't have a container that you can put the lid on, see, look at him. No, it's not good. It's not good. So I'm going to keep this on there. That way the dogs can't get to it and drink it. All right, now we got what I assume they're talking about here out. It says disconnect engine wire. And it says disconnect the water inlet with thermostat sub-assembly connector. Remove the bolt to disconnect the engine wire. I don't know. That seems goofy. If the thermostat housing's over here, the bolt for the wire's over here, this is wire, it disconnects here. Why do we got to take this bolt out? I'm gonna see if I can get away with not doing it. I might be eating my words, but we'll see. Alright, well, upon further examination, that little connector in there is a bugger. So that guy, I can't get my hand in there. See how tight it is up against this condensing line for the air conditioner. I can't get my hand in there to get the clip down to pull it out. And so I've been fighting with that for the last 30 minutes, and I was looking at it, and if you look right in there, you can see a part of the outlet hose. And of course the little prongs to slide the hose clamp off are pointed straight up, and there's no way I'm going to be able to get in there with some pliers or anything to get that clamp off. So I figured since we got half the engine taken apart, oh, by the way, I did take off the actual rod because it was all up in the way. And so since we got half the engine apart, I figured why not go ahead and we'll just take this guy here off too and see what that does. I think maybe that's part of the assembly they were talking about. In the all data sheet right here, the engine mounting stay right hand and the engine moving control rod bracket. So we're gonna take it off and see if it helps us. All right, y'all, it's time to eat my words. So that bracket for that wiring harness, see there's the connector for the thermostat housing, and there's the bracket. And then if you look, let's see if we can get some light on the situation. If you look right down there, there's a bolt, and that bolt is to get this guy off. And we got to get this guy off so that we can get the dang hose, the outlet hose off. And so, yes, you have to take the bracket off. It makes it a lot easier. We're going to do that now. All right, so we finally got our bracket loose. That guy was a pain. And so there he is there, but he's hard to get to, and just a 10 millimeter socket isn't long enough to reach it. 10 millimeter with an extension is too long. It hits this tube for the air conditioning condenser, and so what I ended up doing was using a U-joint or a swivel extension, and with my 10 millimeter on the end. And you kind of got to put one hand in there and work it through, or work it on there, and then use the other hand to bust it loose with the wrench. But now that that's out of the way, we can get to our last little 14 millimeter bolt for this bracket. So let's get that sucker out of there.
All right, let's get that last 14 out of there. Well, we might have to send it back in again. Oh my goodness. I really don't like transversely mounted engines, or whatever you want to say it. Whatever you want to say, whatever. This is just driving me mad. Okay, well, now that this is Sufficiently. Yeah.
All right, now that we got that bracket out of the way, it is much easier to access everything. So, you know, I may have been able to finagle a way to get that hose clamp flipped around to be able to access it. You know, it's kind of a pain though. I probably would have just fought with it for a few hours, got angry, yelled, broke something, and then ended up taking the bracket off anyway. So we finally got it off, and this is just going to make it a lot easier to access everything we need to. One other option, I could have got to this hose clamp up here on this end, and I probably could have pulled it off from there and then finagled it back up under that bracket, but I had already committed to getting that bracket out, so you know, I mean, it is what it is. We're gonna see how easy, or specifically not easy, it's going to be to get that bracket back in there, but we're at least here now, and we can move on and get the thermostat housing off. So now I'm gonna take off my connector here. It should be a lot easier to get my hands around it and pull that sucker off. We're going to pull off our discharge hose right there. Focus. Pull off that guy, and then we're going to pull off our supply hose on this side. There's 3 bolts right there, 1 on the top, 2 on the bottom, and then there's 1 bolt here, and then the whole assembly comes out. All right, we're about ready to pull off the hoses here. Now, I did finally get the connector off. I had to use a pair of pliers to get enough leverage on the end of the connector. Let me see if I can pull it out. And so there's a tab right here. Let me see if I can get to where you can see it. So there's this tab right on the end, and you have to push that in. And I couldn't get enough leverage on it with my fingers, so I used these pliers to get on the tab and then push it down enough to lift up this other end. And I can't get it to where I can show you. Just like that. And once I lifted it up, I just held that up with one hand, and then I had a pick. This is just a screwdriver, but I used it on the other end of it to push it off, and then finally just wiggled it off enough to pull it off. So I'll put that out of the way. Now we're going to get the One tool that I recommend everybody have on hand is a magnet on a stick. This one big shout out to my boss, Dustin, for getting me this one. It has a light on the end of it, so should make it easier to find where it went and then attach onto it. This one's nice and strong too. Look at that. Easy peasy. Thank you, Dustin. We got our two hoses off. We got our outlet and our inlet. Both of them are disconnected. Now we're going to undo. We are going to take out the 3 bolts that hold the housing onto the block. Sorry. And we are going to take off this one that holds the inlet. So let's get those 4 off and pull the housing off. And here it is. So this is the thermostat housing on the newer Toyotas, and like most newer cars, it is made out of plastic. It looks like this guy was leaking a bit over on this side. Huh, interesting. I guess it was leaking from the hose. It looks like it might have been coming out from where the hose attached. I hope there's not a crack. I mean, it doesn't matter. I'm changing the whole housing out, but that would just further confirm my issues that I have with these newer vehicles and the use of plastic parts. So look at this thing. It's just so thin plastic, and it's really hard to believe that this even holds up to the heat of an engine. But real quick, we're going to just dissect this one and see if we can find why it was not heating up, and throw the new one in. Alright, so these are not like standard thermostats. It's not its own standalone thermostat. It's actually meant to be a part of the housing, and so the spring actually holds it in place. I'm gonna see if I can wiggle this over. I think they make an actual tool that will push down on this and get it out of the way. But here it is. Oh, and see, that's all it is on this one, is a spring and a retainer. It looks a lot like a valve spring in a cylinder head. So let's see. Yeah, that's interesting. So here is the, I guess I would say housing, but this is the mating surface for the thermostat housing. There is this kind of spacer type deal right here that goes up against the block. It's got these bolts. I guess it's just, well, there's 2 that I see, one up here and one down there. Then of course you see your coolant in there. Now these newer thermostat housings, they're just sealed up with a gasket, and so I'm just gonna clean up this mating surface a little bit. Spray a little bit of carb cleaner on it. paper towel and just clean it up a little bit. Just wipe it down, make sure it's going to be a nice clean surface for that gasket to seal up against. Work all the way around and good to go. Now we're going to take our new thermostat housing, slide it down into place here. Now it kind of only came out one way, so I'm going to try and get it in the same way. You got to slide it over that stud. There we go. And then get it over the 1 hour on this side. If you can get it to reach, there we go. And then slide it right on. There we go. Now we're just going to zip the bolts on, and it's pretty much the reverse process of how you took everything apart. And this is probably going to be the trying part for me, but enjoy a whole bunch of time lapse.
I got my head out the sunroof, I'm blasting our favorite tunes. I only got one thing on my mind. You got me stuck on the thought of you. You're making me feel brand new. You're more than a sunshine in my eyes. You got those pretty eyes in your head, you know it.
Good morning. Well, actually afternoon here in sunny Colorado. I got a little bit done last night, ended up just calling the quits for the night and trying to get a little bit of rest. And then this morning I had some errands to run, went and hauled a bunch of junk off, and now we are getting started. So have a look around, enjoy the day. It's beautiful. Love it here. So we're getting ready to pick back up. Well, I shouldn't say getting ready. I did do a little bit off camera before I thought to start recording. I got the 4 bolts to the thermostat housing bolted up. And so we've got the 3 there and then this little guy right here. Got those bolted up. I was only able to get the torque wrench on one, but I got them all snugged up even, used the torque wrench on the one, and then counted or kept track of how far down it turned. And so using my calibrated hand and a little not so scientific measurements, I think we got it torqued down good enough. I did get the hoses, the outlet and the inlet hoses. Well, no, just the outlet. I got the outlet hose on. And one thing I did do is I spun that hose clamp around to where if anybody does this again, they should be able to access that hose clamp with that bracket that's a huge pain to get off on there. And so hopefully with this, this will save somebody a good hour or two of time and be able to get to that clamp with the bracket on there. So let's pick back up and get this knocked out.
Every time I pray for better days, every day feel it coming on the way. Gotta step on every pace and no matter what it takes. Tapusing mereka bilang ini itu. Haters gonna hate when you try to make a move for the better days. Takkan ada yang mulus for the better days.
It's time for a cupcake break. Love these things, they're like my vice. But kind of dragging, taking my time, because next up is putting this guy back on with all 9 bolts. So I'm kind of dreading that because it was extremely hard to get it off. I had to pull some of the bolts out, leave some of the bolts in. I don't remember which I left out or which I took out and which ones I left in. I'm hoping that I got them all back in the right place. But we're going to give this a go. I feel like this bolt right here was a longer one because I thought it was one of the first ones I tried to get out and it was too long to slide out. So I'm going to take this guy here, which is one of the longer ones. Well, let's see. Oh shoot, I don't think. No, can't be. Well, I guess we are just going to hope that I got them right. One thing it does say on the all data sheet is to make sure that there's no oil on the threads. So I'm going to grab my rag here and this, let's see, I don't know if you can see it, but this guy right here has got some oil on him. So I'm going to try and clean all that off. Maybe give him a spritz with some good old B12 Chem Tool. This stuff's awesome. No, I'm not sponsored. B12, if you feel like throwing out some sponsorship money or even just a can of B12, give me a shout. There we go.
Turn the light on my handy dandy magnet on a stick. Bloop.
All right, luckily found it within just a couple minutes, so thank you, Lord. Now I've got to figure out why it feels bound up. We got that guy started. That one there. That's the only one that's acting kind of funky. I just want to try and look around to make sure it's not up against something on the bottom. I'm hoping it's just pressing up against that outlet hose.
and that's what's giving us issues. But I don't know. I don't like it. Usually when stuff like this happens, when you go to cinch it down all the way, it breaks something. I definitely don't want to break nothing on this. There's no way that's Chance. Chance. Well, let's take a break, think things over, see if we can't come up with a wise decision here. Alright, I finally figured out what was holding us up, and what it was that guy right there. And so he was all the way back and wedged in between this smaller line right there. See where the scratch marks are? Right there. That's where he was binding up, and he was keeping the bracket from moving freely. Once we got him freed up, I just used a long screwdriver and popped him loose. Then now it just goes freely, and it goes right where it needs to be. And yeah, you can see it's sitting nice and flush, just the way it should. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to zip down that bolt hand tight, and then I'm going to get this one down hand tight to where it's up against there and flush, but not to where it's so tight that the bracket won't move. I want it to still have a little bit of wiggle, and then I will one by one get the rest of them started. I've got a couple, maybe it's just one. I got this one right here that I've got to put in his place, and I think I should be able to get it in there with the bracket in where it's supposed to be. One other observation, I did notice on the all data sheet that they list the links, so I'm going to take a minute and let all of you subscribers, hopefully you subscribe, give me a subscribe for this info. I'm just going to take a minute, pause it, and take a screenshot, whatever you need to do. That way you have a diagram of the bolt lengths and where they go. This can be extremely helpful, so you're welcome. All right. Thank you again, Dustin. This thing is a lifesaver. Love it.
Three different size big bolts on this thing. Each one of them with about 1 million threads, fine pitched.
twist on them for half a day. Give you arthritis just changing a dang thermostat. Carpal tunnel. Maybe it's carpal tunnel. I don't know. You're getting arthritis tunnel. Oh, no. That one's a no-go. Switch over to our little handy dandy Harbor Freight. I love these through socket ratchets. This set is incredibly handy. I like it because the depth is less than a standard 3/8 ratchet with a socket on it. So these tighter spaces, you can fit it in there. Plus, you don't need a deep well, because if you've got a bolt or a nut where the stud goes through it, it will slide right through it. Super handy dandy set. Okay, I think we got all of them cinched down fairly well. There we go. Now let's see what our torque spec it is. Torque spec is... It is 40 foot-pounds, and it's only the 3 bolts shown. So take a quick moment for you to pause and look at that. So you got 1, 2, 3. Those 3 get torqued to 40 foot-pounds. All right, and we are going to go to foot-pound side, and there go the dogs. They choose just the best times to get their 2 cents in. And 40 foot-pounds right there. Perfect. All right, we're set at 40 foot-pounds, and we need to do this guy right here. If we can get on it. There we go. That feels like it's more than 40. I'm wondering if it's because we're up against the bracket. Let's grab a short extension. There's the dogs again. One moment. Sounds like it might be UPS. And we're back. That was FedEx. It was FedEx instead of UPS with work delivery. So I am actually glad that the dogs notified me that the delivery man came. Alright, let's see if we can get in here. The torque wrench.
Well, it looks like they all get torqued to 40 foot-pounds. So I'm not sure why they differentiated those three. But maybe they just want you to tighten those three. I had initially showed these three. Maybe they want you to tighten those three first. Next, we're going to do this guy right here. Next, you got that guy there, again 40 foot-pounds, and I'm just going to run you through the rest of them and knock them out all at once. You got that guy right there, and last but not least, this guy all the way in the back on the left side. We have got our motor mount bracket number 1 in and fully torqued down. Woo! Next, we got to, it says in the instructions to plug in your harness or your connector for your thermostat, and I already did that beforehand, but you want to get the bolt back in for the bracket down there, so we're gonna do that now. Alright, we got our bracket for the connector that goes to the thermostat connected, or we got it tightened down. I did want to show you real quick, if you look, let's see if I can get the flashlight to shine down there. I noticed when I was hooking it back up, if you look down in this way, see it right there, you can see the bolt right down in the down below that bracket we just put on. So that's one way you can get to where you can see what you're doing, is to just look down from the top and see when you have your socket on there. Hope that helps. I gotta go pick up my daughter, and it should be smooth sailing when we get back. Okay, I got my daughter picked up and we're ready to pick back up where we left off. So we got the bracket for the connector for the thermostat hooked up, and now we got to start assembling the motor mount again. So here is the first part we got to put on, and this one goes like this. So you want to have that little floppy part pointed in towards the engine. So let's throw that on. All right, we got that on there and just hand tight. I'm not going to tighten anything with the motor mount until I get everything back on here, and then I'll tighten everything up.
brake lines here. I kind of doubt it. What we might have to do, let's loosen these back up. That way we can spin the bracket back out a little bit and get this bolt in. Make sure you don't lose the washers for these bolts when you take everything apart. That's a big reason why I keep all the bolts in the places that they go. So when I went to go put this on, the bolts were in there, the washers were where they were supposed to be, and I don't have to worry about it. And again, we're just going to get these sent down hand tight. And then there's a couple brackets that go back over here. We'll put those on as well. And all of this interconnects, so, and it all has a little bit of play in it. The holes, the bolt holes in this bracket are elongated, so it'll allow it to move around quite a bit. But these over here where the brackets mount to, you know, they don't have any play, so let's leave a little play in the bracket so that we can make sure everything lines up right. Go. Let's grab the other brackets. Okay, so we've got our two brackets here. I don't remember which one went where. I think this one here goes on first, and then this one, the small skinny one, goes on second. But let's just do a little trial and error, and we'll figure out which one goes where. These two went on here, but maybe, does it go this way? Might go this way. Yeah, it goes this way. So I think maybe the other bracket goes on first. Yeah. Maybe. I don't know. This one goes here. Yeah. Yeah, this, we had it right the first time. This one goes under the harness. We got our bolt that's loose here. And then right on those two studs, just like that. Put our bolts back in. Chance! My goodness, that dog's loud. Made me jump. He's a big dog. Alright, now before we put these two nuts on, we got to put our bracket on. Our last bracket. And just clear off some of that junk. And he goes right there. I got my last bolt sitting right here. The two nuts go back on, sandwiching those two stamped steel brackets together. Like that. And we will snap our harness back on the stamped steel bracket and tighten up all the bolts.
Well, we got it pretty much all wrapped up here. I started when I was tightening it up, I started with these the bracket bolts here, and then I worked my way this way, and then tightened these guys down too. Actually, no, I didn't. Look at that. Well, caught that one. It's a good idea. Always make sure you check them, but I'll get these zipped down and tightened up real good, and should be good to go. So I hope this helps somebody. I have to wait until I have the antifreeze. So once I have the antifreeze this evening, then I'll top off the radiator, check for leaks. I want to check for leaks before I put our bottom cover that's under there back on. But after I check for leaks, then we'll put that bottom cover back on. Don't forget your little foam engine cover. Throw that on and it should be good to go. If anybody has any questions, then feel free to comment. If this has helped you, then please comment, like, share. If you have any requests or anything you want me to touch on or work on, then just give me a message or comment. Thank you.